land in Mariupol. Now, here's a question for you. What do Harrods, Heathrow, the Shard, Canary Wharf and Sainsbury's have in common? Well, they are all owned or part-owned by the desert state of Qatar, host of the world's biggest sporting event, the World Cup, which kicks off a week today amid a sandstorm of controversy that has swirled ever since FIFA controversially awarded Qatar the tournament over a decade ago.
The winner to organise the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
Since then, they've been busy readying the country to welcome the world, projecting an image of a modern, vibrant, young country. The theme song, Higher, Higher, Better Together, has a video of multi-ethnic men and women dancing happily in the desert. For Qatar, it's the crowning achievement of a 30-year strategy to turn its vast oil and gas wealth into international prestige, apparently in the hope that the higher its profile, the more secure it would be from its neighbours. Dr. David Roberts is from King's College London.
This is a state the size roughly of Yorkshire. It has the population of the district area of Sunderland, yet it is, sitting upon by far the world's largest gas field. And they are located in this deeply problematic region. Much larger antagonistic states to the north, Iraq, east and west, Saudi Arabia and Iran. And so with this tiny population, you need to come up with creative solutions to secure yourself, whether that's involving other states in the security apparatus, whether that is trying to make yourself as visible as possible, a target with lots of friends or whatever it may be.
And the World Cup is only the pinnacle of that strategy to sort of hide in the limelight. And the UK, of course, has very deep ties with the military.
So, Qatar emerged from empire, the Ottoman Empire and the British Empire. But the Qatar that we know today has these significant relationships with the UK, but not just the UK, with France, very much with the US as well. And it's not just about Qatar becoming a fairly significant consumer of British kind of defence goods, but it's about the integration with the Royal Air Force. And the first time that we in the UK have created a new fighter squadron since the Second World War. And that is, of course, literally with the Qataris in partnership. And this is with a view to the RAF working side by side with the Qataris during the World Cup.
And I suppose those ties only deepen when we have a global energy crisis and the world is trying to shun Russian oil and gas exports. And various politicians from the UK have beaten a path to the Qatar's door to try and secure additional energy.
Indeed, Qatar has these immense gas supplies. Japan, Korea, China are principal consumers of Qatari gas, though, of course, in the UK, we consume a good amount as well.
And, of course, the investment, it really has its claws in deep to the UK.
Indeed. Qatari investments in the UK go back to the 2000s, really. There has been this gut assumption that we know the UK, Qatari elite, we have houses here. Lots of Qataris have grown up in the UK in many ways. And so it's this fundamental closeness they feel that, they know the people, and so they just spend their cash here.
To build the infrastructure for the tournament, this Sunderland-sized population imported huge numbers of foreign migrants. And it's the conditions those workers laboured and some died under that is top of a list of human rights violations condemned by human rights groups. Rothna Begum is from Human Rights Watch.
For the past 12 years, every single infrastructure that you see today has been built by these workers. The international community, including the footballing world, needs to be calling for a remedy fund for migrant workers who faced abuse and exploitation for building and servicing the World Cup.
And of course, there is the issue that homosexuality is illegal in Qatar. What should the footballing public do?
People can choose whether they want to go or not. Everyone is more concerned about whether fans will be treated well or not when they arrive, or footballers. But that's not really the issue. The issue is that the Qatari authorities discriminate LGBT people within Qatar. Those who are resident, who live there as citizens, they're the ones who are targeted for arrest, detention without charge, and even torture, as we documented a month ago.
Do you think that there is a bit of hypocrisy going on here, that Western countries are crying foul over the fact that Qatar has been awarded this tournament, when countries like the UK and the US are very happy to take Qatar's gas, very happy to accept investment, very happy to supply them with weapons?
Well, the UK has had good relations with Qatar for a very long time, and I think it actually needs to reckon with its legacy in the Gulf region, both politically, but also the systems and laws that they left behind.
The Qatari authorities say claims of abuse and torture are false. So how do the fans themselves feel? Ellen has followed the Wales team around the world, and Mike plays for London Titans, an LGBT football team.
It's the first time in my living memory that Wales have qualified for a World Cup, so it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. Of course, the fact that it's in Qatar, it does take the shine off it a bit. But, like a lot of my fellow fans, I've also travelled to China to watch Wales and travelled to other countries that have their own human rights problems as well. So it'd be hypocritical to say, no, I'm not going to Qatar, but I'll willingly go to China.
I went to the last World Cup in Russia and also went to Euro 2016 in France. Had this World Cup taken place in another country, then that certainly would have been an experience that myself and my friends would have liked to replicate. But given Qatar, as an openly gay man, it kind of feels like it would be a bit of a risk.
Well, we did ask to speak to the Qatari government and the Foreign Office, but no one was available. But meanwhile, Sepp Blatter, the man in charge of world football's governing body FIFA at the time Qatar was awarded the tournament, has said in hindsight that decision, which led to corruption charges of which he was cleared, was a big mistake. So how are his comments and the general international unease at the event going down in Qatar itself? Faizel Al-Mudaka is editor of the Gulf Times.
10 days before the World Cup, after 12 years, and he said, it's ridiculous. He wants to be part of the propaganda that is happening. He don't want to miss the show. He wants to be part of this show.
Of this
circus, I mean.
But you talk about a circus. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable about the World Cup in Qatar. You had hundreds, maybe thousands of poorly paid, poorly treated workers who died during the construction of the stadium.
No. First of all, okay, you can throw any number you want, but in the end of the day, manipulating statistics and number, this is what I see in the media.
You're not denying that migrant workers were poorly treated and some of them did in fact die in the construction of the whatever number you put on it.
Look, Qatar has 80% of expats. The numbers that has been going here in the media all around is 6,500. 6,500 represent the expat who died in the last 12 years, all over. So the death rate of Qatar is 0.3. The death rate of England is 9%. So manipulating the number and just throwing accusation against us, really it makes us very disappointed as a public.
Why then did the Qatar authorities find themselves having to change their labour laws, raise minimum wages, change the labour code, if they didn't acknowledge that there was a problem?
Every country, every nation has its own policy and its social development and always reform policies. It's an emerging country. Of course, our old laws will not go with what we have. So reforms, of course we have reforms, and we will do the reforms. I think the World Cup has only fast forward. I'm very disappointed on what I see because I see people talking about Qatar who never been in Qatar,
You say that you're a developing country, you're reforming. Maybe that is part of the problem that people have identified. It was awarded during a process that was mired in controversy. There was a corruption probe about that where Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini were cleared. They were cleared. There
was a corruption, whatever. We have passed that.
But that is being appealed. Obviously, homosexuality is illegal in Qatar. There are homosexual fans who want to go there and they don't feel. That is why people like the Danish team kit provider saying they're toning down the logos, whatever, in protest because they don't feel comfortable about doing it.
Qatar is part of the Arab nation. We have 450 million population in this area. It is the first time happened in the Middle East, okay? Football is not a monopoly for Europe, okay? It has been hosted more than 10 times in Europe. We'll be very happy to see India or somebody in Asia also have the opportunity. It happened in Africa. Why not in Qatar? Who can lecture us and tell us you are wrong and you are right and and this and that? I mean, I don't understand why it's too early. Who decides it's early or it's late or it's not time? This kind of language is very racist. I don't see officials from the UK when they come talking about business or investment are talking about this, really. When it comes to gas, whatever, we are being hugged and we are being loved. And when we are trying to do something for our country, there is a hypocrisy of, even the language. I have heard an official guy from the UK say, they are not ready. They are intellectually not ready. Who can judge us? We are intellectually not ready. What do you mean intellectually not ready? I would really invite, the public of the UK, please come visit us and experience by yourself. Sitting back there and judging, from London, yes, this is wrong. This is not the way really to that nation. The football is all about the football. Normally in football, before the football, people ask, who do you think is to be the nominated? What do you think of this? What do you think? The whole idea is being politicized now.
That was Faisal al-Mudaka, the editor of the Gulf Times. The World Cup kicks off a week today. Now, as you've been hearing in the headlines, the Democrats in the US are celebrating the fact they have held on to a majority in the Senate. Victory in Nevada overnight gave them 50 of the 100 seats. And although Georgia is yet to be decided, it doesn't really matter, as Vice President Kamala Harris, a Democrat, has a tie-breaking casting vote. It's a setback for the Republicans and for Donald Trump, as over half the candidates he personally